To my family, friends, supporters, and colleagues, I want to speak to you directly and from the heart. This is a shakedown.
You know, it is a shakedown. It is a targeted attack, but Shannon needs to have some accountability because he gave them something to shake down. He gave them something to target by making poor choices.
Get with a white woman because I was scared she might have me running down the street like Jonathan Majors.
There you go. Come on, Katt.
Not because I didn't like white women. I think white women are as great as any other women. But I'm not gonna act like I'm not scared of them. I have a reason to be scared. You could be Kang the Conqueror, and they could take your rabbit ass down in 2 weekends.
I'm trying to hang out with these young and you can't do it, Shannon. You just can't do it. Oh, you don't need no 26-year-old girl. You don't need no 36-year-old girl.
I know.
This is your auntie talking to you.
Nobody saw it coming, not even Shannon Sharpe. One moment, he was riding the wave of success with a brand that had become a cultural powerhouse. The next, gone. That massive $100 million media deal that was supposed to cement his legacy vanished like smoke in the wind. Behind closed doors, sources say the decision wasn't gradual. It was brutal, immediate, and absolute. Executives reportedly pulled the plug after serious concern over reputational risk tied to the accelerating $50 million lawsuit filed against Sharpe. For a man who spent decades building credibility on the field and behind the mic, this was more than just a business setback. It was personal annihilation. The deal, insiders say, included multi-platform rights for his podcast, Club Shay Shay, plus exclusive streaming rights, merchandising pipelines, and a full live tour package. Now, all of it has been wiped clean. And the timing wasn't random. The deal collapsed just days after the lawsuit against Sharpe took a sharp turn when Jane Doe's attorneys demanded emergency hearings and new discovery access. To investors, it didn't matter if Sharpe was innocent or guilty. The headlines were toxic, and in today's media economy, that's all it takes. His brand became radioactive overnight, and just like that, the $100 million dream dissolved, publicly, painfully, and with zero warning.
To my family, friends, supporters, and colleagues, I want to speak to you directly and from the heart.
You know, it is a shakedown. It is a targeted attack, but Shannon needs to have some accountability because he gave them something to shake down. He gave them something to target by making poor choices.
It all started with a single court filing, but what it triggered was nothing short of an earthquake. Jane Doe's $50 million lawsuit didn't just accuse Shannon Sharpe of inappropriate behavior. It painted a picture so disturbing, so meticulously detailed that it immediately became national news. The accusations ranged from verbal manipulation to serious allegations of repeated SA, all framed within a 2-year relationship that Jane claimed was riddled with coercion, fear, and abuse. For Sharpe, who had cultivated a reputation as both a no-nonsense sports commentator and an inspiring success story, the allegations hit like a missile to the chest. Suddenly, he wasn't being talked about for his sharp NFL takes or viral podcast moments. He was being dissected on legal panels, morning shows, and social feeds. Sponsors who once celebrated his charisma and influence now feared being associated with him. The timing of the lawsuit was especially brutal, just as final signatures were being prepared for the $100 million distribution deal. Jane Doe's team pushed for expedited legal action, arguing that waiting would allow Sharpe to clean up his image. That urgency sent a message to his partners. This wasn't going away. The accusations, whether true or not, became a liability, and in today's court of public opinion, that's all it takes to tear down an empire.
Because it's true. Sit your old down and go find somebody your age and build a family with them. As I said yesterday, men, we need stability and we need discipline.
The call came in the middle of the afternoon, a time Sharpe usually reserved for prepping podcast material or texting with producers. But this wasn't a production call. It was a corporate bombshell. His $100 million deal, the one his team had spent months crafting with investors and media giants, was officially dead. No renegotiation, no delay, just gone. According to insiders, Sharpe was stunned into silence. For a man known for his loud laugh and quick comebacks, he reportedly said nothing for nearly a full minute. And when he did finally speak, it wasn't with fire, it was with disbelief. Are you serious right now? What followed was a frenzy of panic. Conference calls, lawyers scrambling, PR agents hitting red alert. One executive who was part of the deal said the company had no choice. The lawsuit reached a point of no return. It's not about guilt, it's about brand risk. That statement echoed in Sharpe's head for for days. All the late nights, business pitches, meetings, contracts, wiped out by one accusation and a growing media storm. He felt cornered, betrayed, isolated. Even his inner circle didn't know what to say. This wasn't just a financial loss, it was a gut punch to everything he'd built post-football. And in that moment, standing in his own studio, surrounded by the silence of collapsed dreams, Shannon Sharpe realized his entire future had just been ripped out from under him.
And Shannon himself is dropping receipts, and I gotta say, this doesn't look good for his accuser at all.
The fallout didn't just hit Shannon Sharpe's personal brand, it sent shockwaves through ESPN. Within hours of the lawsuit's latest developments, top executives at the network called for an emergency meeting, crisis management teams were summoned, PR departments went into overdrive, and internal memos were flying like wildfire. Sharpe, who had been a crown jewel of the network's sports commentary lineup, suddenly became a walking controversy, and for a network that thrives on public trust, neutrality, and advertiser confidence, he was now a liability they couldn't ignore. Behind closed doors, ESPN began quietly adjusting their strategy. His segments on First Take were shortened. Production teams were told to avoid topics that might veer into personal territory. There were even internal whispers about preparing alternate talent, just in case Sharpe had to be pulled completely. The mood was tense. Some staffers reportedly felt conflicted. Was ESPN abandoning a man who hadn't even had his day in court? But from a business standpoint, the decision made sense. As long as the lawsuit loomed and media chatter escalated, ESPN couldn't afford to let the situation spiral further. Publicly, they kept their statements short. We support due process. Privately, they were in triage mode. They weren't just trying to protect their programming, they were trying to keep their advertisers from fleeing. And at the center of that storm, Sharpe found himself more alone than ever, unsure who still had his back, or if anyone truly did.
At that point, she said that they were in a they were in an actual relationship. They were in Vegas together. So when that happened, she had already kind of been, in this thing where he's verbally abusive, allegedly, but she thought that they were together.
The real bloodbath came not in the courtroom, but in the boardrooms. The moment the lawsuit gained momentum and Sharpe's countersuit backfired in the press, sponsors started dropping like flies. First, it was the premium energy drink brand that had featured him in every major campaign. They pulled out of a multi-year 8-figure deal, citing morality clause complications. Then came the sneaker collab, which was supposed to launch with exclusive content on Club Shay Shay, canceled. One by one, they vanished. No press releases, no apologies, just cold exits from contracts that once sang his praises. Within 48 hours, Sharpe's business team watched over $20 million in sponsorships vanish into thin air. These weren't hypothetical projections. They were signed, sealed, and locked in until the scandal erupted. And it didn't stop there. A luxury watch brand sent a polite but firm statement halting negotiations, citing unresolved legal complications. Even beverage distributors associated with his custom cognac label began pulling shelf space in high visibility stores. His merchandise shop saw a dramatic dip in orders, and back-end affiliates froze payments pending outcome of legal situation. It wasn't just a PR nightmare, it was financial freefall. These sponsors weren't waiting for a verdict, they were reacting to optics, headlines, and the algorithmic chaos of public perception. To Sharpe, the message was devastatingly clear. In this industry, perception isn't just reality, it's revenue. If losing sponsors was a financial hit, the social media backlash was a full-on character assassination. Within hours of the lawsuit's latest developments, Shannon Sharpe's name was trending for all the wrong reasons. Hashtags like #SharpeAllegations and #ClubShay Shutdown flooded Twitter, and TikTok exploded with commentary videos dissecting every piece of court documentation, every old clip, every interview, twisting them out of context to fit a narrative. Memes went viral, influencers picked sides, and even fellow athletes subtly distanced themselves with cryptic "protect your peace" posts. What hurt most wasn't just the criticism, it was how fast the loyalty vanished. Fans who once hailed him as the voice of reason were now reposting deepfake clips implying guilt. AI-generated videos mashed up his old podcast lines with sinister background music, making him look like a villain ripped from a Netflix docuseries. Even worse, some of those clips racked up millions of views before his legal team could even flag them for removal. Public sentiment didn't just dip, it plummeted. Sentiment analysis reports showed a steep 80% tilt toward negative perception within 72 hours. And once the internet gets its narrative, reversing it is like trying to catch a hurricane with a butterfly net. Sharpe's media empire wasn't just bleeding, it was being mocked, memed, and torn apart in real time. And as the court date loomed, he wasn't just fighting a legal war, he was drowning in a digital one.
Who are being falsely accused to drop their receipts in the most public and aggressive way possible, because if you don't, the PR can deem you guilty before you even get to a court of law.
In a bold move meant to flip the narrative, Shannon Sharpe launched a $100 million defamation countersuit, hoping to strike back, clear his name, and shift public sympathy in his favor. But instead of delivering the knockout blow he envisioned, the move backfired in spectacular fashion. Rather than being seen as a man defending his honor, Sharpe was painted by many as a bully, using his wealth and influence to silence a woman who dared to speak out. The timing? Disastrous. The strategy? Misread. And the result? Catastrophic. Media outlets that once treated Sharpe with nuance now ran headlines accusing him of weaponizing defamation law. Even legal experts debated whether the lawsuit was about truth or intimidation. Advocacy groups took to Instagram, launching coordinated campaigns accusing Sharpe of sending a message to all victims. Overnight, his counterpunch turned into a PR grenade, blowing up in his face and dragging his name deeper into controversy. Worse yet, the lawsuit reignited attention to details many had started to forget. Now the original claims were being repeated, quoted, and debated all over again, this time with more scrutiny. And the brands that were still on the fence, they saw enough. More deals vanished, more partners backed out, and for Sharpe, what was supposed to be a legal lifeline became a public relations landmine. Instead of resetting the narrative, it exploded it.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I do see some similarities here to the Justin case. Look, Justin has now, and Johnny Depp to his credit as well.
What started as a single canceled deal quickly spiraled into a full-blown financial crisis. Shannon Sharpe wasn't just losing money, he was watching his entire media empire slip through his fingers. The collapse of the $100 million distribution agreement triggered a ripple effect that hit every vertical he was involved in. Merchandising orders dried up, licensing discussions went silent, sponsorship renewals froze, and several investment partners reportedly requested early exits, citing long-term brand instability. Behind the scenes, his business managers were reportedly scrambling to slash operational costs just to keep his existing media ventures afloat. The biggest blow, Club Shay Shay's live tour, once hyped as the next evolution of his brand, was quietly shelved. Ticket vendors paused marketing campaigns, and several venues demanded contractual reassurances that Sharpe couldn't give. According to insiders, projected revenues for Q3 and Q4 were slashed by more than 60%, numbers that were catastrophic for a platform built on scaling fast and dominating the influencer market. Staff members were let go, freelancers stopped receiving payments. Even Sharpe's production studio had to halt expansion plans that were already underway. What once looked like a bulletproof brand backed by charisma and credibility was now bleeding from every angle. And worse, there was no fix in sight. The numbers didn't lie. Shannon Sharpe was in freefall, financially and reputationally, with no safety net beneath him. Behind the polished Instagram posts and carefully worded statements, Shannon Sharpe was unraveling. Those close to him say the confident, outspoken firebrand the world knew was nowhere to be found. Instead, he'd become quiet, withdrawn. Colleagues on set noticed the shift first. No more backstage laughs, no more sideline trash talk, just a man glued to his phone, scanning legal documents between commercial breaks. Off camera, he was reportedly battling sleepless nights, intense anxiety, and emotional exhaustion from the mounting pressure. Family members, especially his brother Sterling, were deeply concerned. Insiders say Sterling urged him to take a step back from everything, media, legal battles, all of it, for the sake of his mental health. But Sharpe refused. To him, stepping away wasn't an option, it would be seen as guilt. Still, the toll was visible. He reportedly stopped training at his usual gym, avoided public outings, and cut communication with some of his closest friends. The emotional collapse wasn't just mental, it was physical. One friend claimed Sharpe looked 10 years older in a matter of weeks. His famous booming voice was now quiet in meetings, his energy drained, and all of it stemmed from the same cruel truth. One accusation had shattered everything, not just deals and dollars, but trust, peace, and the powerful persona he had spent years building. The man who once owned the room now looked like he didn't even want to enter it. Now, the question hanging over everything is simple. Can Shannon Sharpe ever come back from this? Or is this the end of the empire he spent decades building? Insiders say he's weighing every option. A public apology tour, a quiet settlement, even walking away from media altogether. But nothing guarantees redemption. The lawsuit isn't going away. Discovery is next. That means private texts, emails, phone records, every detail of his personal and professional life about to be cracked open and poured into the public eye. And even if he wins in court, he's already lost something far more valuable: the public's confidence. Big brands might never touch him again. Podcast networks may hesitate to relaunch his show, and the YouTube audience he once dominated. They've moved on to the next viral controversy. In an industry driven by attention, Sharpe's name has become too risky, too radioactive. Worse still, there's the whisper of finality in every conversation now. Former sponsors use phrases like permanent suspension of partnership. Business partners call the damage structural. Even some of his most loyal fans have quietly unfollowed.